Void Stranger is developed by System Erasure and was released on PC and only PC at the time of this video on September 2023. I knew nothing about this game going in, just that my sister really wanted me to play it. After playing it, I think she hates me. Our main premise is that after a cold opening, you're playing as a, at the time when the game starts, nameless character who finds a rod. This rod allows them to explore this dungeon, and now you must take tasks in order to explore this massive dungeon. At the start, you really know nothing what's going on, or even the character's name. There are points in the dungeon where you can rest at trees, and this will trigger flashbacks so you can learn more about the character, who they are, and why they're even in this mysterious dungeon referred to as the Void. But throughout the Void, you'll also find even more mysterious creatures, some of which are willing to communicate with your character in order to explain what exactly is going on in this place, but not even they can give you the full story. Everything here is just so mysterious, and stuff just not exactly fully told to the player outright. If I'm sounding vague, that's because I kinda am, since Void Stranger just try to draw you in with the mystery of what's going on. Hence why is the game also told by flashbacks everything, for you to understand what your character is out here even trying to do with this mysterious void. Everything does have an answer for what's going on, and this is a game that also has various endings as well. It's just the fact that a lot of stuff going in, you don't really know what's going on, but there are ways to find the answers, whatever they may be. So it's not as if it's just a game that has intrigue and nothing in it. There's plenty to find when it comes to the actual story of the game. And for the most part, I didn't really care much for the story being told. There were moments where I was invested in the story, but for the most part, when it comes to Void Stranger, a lot of it just felt like some cases of, felt like there's some massive thing going on that's trying to get my attention right now, but it's not exactly working, kind of thing. But there is stuff that explains what's happening with the Void that does exactly get a bit more and more interesting the more you start layering the pieces together of what you can actually find out from it. It also helps that there are other people in the Void who you can also interact with in order to get information from them or just find out what's their deal, although they're not very talkative. And it's also entertaining. There are also some enemies you can actually examine and actually have the character comment on them as well, so it is also an interesting bit. And while I did mention there are the trees that you can rest at to gain more information on what's going on, you could technically just walk by them and just not be interested as well and just keep on going if you wanted. You don't have to rest at those trees. Although from what I read, there is one instance in the game that if you skip a certain tree, it may in fact bug your game. It's a kind of close and reopen in order to fix it. So there is that risk. Now for the gameplay of Void Stranger being a top-down Sokoban style puzzle game, with the main mechanic being, with the mysterious rod you have, you can take a block and move it elsewhere. That is your main gameplay. Then you're able to use that in order to solve the various puzzles throughout the Void. The game doesn't teach you through words what you can do in the game, and instead, at certain sections of the Void, will show you something which will then show you a new technique you can do. There's technically no actual ability or skill or anything in order to get past it. It's just based on how good you are at the puzzles, hence why even if to restart for one reason or another, if you remember how to do the puzzle, you remember how to do the puzzle. If you remember a later strategy the game showed you, you can implement that in earlier points as well. This game's also the epitome of just try stuff and see what works, and I mean just try literally anything and see what works, because this game is the epitome of just experimentation all over. With example being, I mentioned the fact that, oh, this rod can pick up a block and move it elsewhere. Yeah, it can also move stuff such as the staircase itself, since that's a block, and you can then move it elsewhere, which you want to do for some of the puzzles in the game, or to make things simpler. So as an example of, there's just stuff you can experiment with in the game to an insane degree. That's why as a game, it's when you're knowing much going in, because of the stuff you can find out in order to do it. But if you do get stuck, there are plenty of online resources, especially no spoiler guides, in order to help you out or try to figure out what exactly you need to do for the puzzle. There's also just many secrets in the game, whether it be various endings of this game, or various routes and such in the game, or even hidden tools that you have to try and put together yourself through different kind of puzzles and stuff in the game, or try to figure out what exactly needs to be done in order to dig deeper into the void. Like I said, you can't figure it out, and some of the stuff they want you to do to figure it out are a case of the developers are mad lads. There are online resources that can help you, whether it be spoiler-free, or they may give you instead hints, or just tell you the answer outright, you really can't figure it out. Something I will mention is the Locust system, which is, throughout the void, you'll find chests, and the chests will give you these locusts. They serve the purpose that if you end up being defeated, which any enemy in the game will one-shot you, or you just fall into a pit, the locust will be consumed in order to revive you, resetting the room you're in. However, if you run out of locusts, you are then offered a proposition of either just giving up, which will reset you back to the start of the void, or eating a fruit, but this fruit will essentially then tie you into the void, meaning you'll essentially have unlimited retries, but it's also the fact that may not be the best idea based on the wording, or it could be a great idea. You don't know? Because I'm not telling you. Some of the secrets you can get are also additional tools that can make going through the void a lot easier. Going through the void is essentially only as difficult as the information you know going in, everything going on, which is why going through in allows you to find more information what's going on, like the fact that there are shortcuts in the game to help you get through the void even quicker and stuff like that. So there are many things in the game to alleviate the process of doing the void more than the first time. It's a fact of you gotta try and find them yourself, or find resources that can help you point in the right direction, or like I said, just look up the answer, you really don't know what you're doing. And since it's a Sokoban style puzzle game, that means the puzzle solutions are generally very strict. If you get the additional tools in the game, then you have a lot more leeway, so you can just skip certain aspects of puzzles, but if you're playing them completely natural, then there are points where the solution is so strict that making one mistake will essentially require you to redo the entire puzzle, and it gets super frustrating when you spend so long trying to figure out a puzzle only to have to redo it because of one thing you didn't take into account, which is why Sokoban puzzles aren't exactly the kind I like, but nothing in this game is like poorly made or poorly designed. That just comes down to my preference of these kind of puzzles piss me the hell off. As I mentioned, there are resources to help you with the puzzles, whether in-game or outside the game, because everything here is super well done and everything, and some of the solutions at some points do get incredibly ridiculous, but if you have the other items, then you can have more leeway in how you solve them and go to the next floors. Now, while I mentioned there are other routes, one route in particular is the game's hard mode. In the case of, I'm already not a lot fan of Sokoban style puzzle games, and they made them even more difficult. And I did try to go through that section just using my own process of elimination and thoughts, but I still at points went, nope, screw it, I'm looking up the answer to this room, I just can't, and I had the extra tools to help me get through things faster. But an evil thing of the hard mode route that I'll mention is the fact that they have now placed certain statues and locations that, if you were to in any way, shape, or form get near them, will actually then reset you back to the beginning of the game, since that's their main purpose, is to reset the player back to the start if they're fully stuck or whatever and want to just restart all over. The evilness of putting those things near stairs in one of the game's routes should be studied, But too bad developers may have anticipated that the only thing faster than that thing resetting me is how fast I can hit the Alt F4 command. Which is another thing, Voice Stranger saves your progress after every room, which the game doesn't tell you that, but you can be safe knowing at any point you want to quit and take a break, you can do so at any room whatsoever. So there is that one aspect, and the fact that there are various things in the game that will cause your game to completely close, such as I mentioned the trees. If you rest at them, your game will close everything. Hell, there are points in the game where I found things, and once just close the game, it will flat out make the game intentionally crash. Now for the game's text, and I have no complaints, the text is big and everything. The font is also a bit stylized, so there were some instances where I had to make sure I was reading right which letter was being shown to me, but that's about it. The text is big and easy to read and everything, whether it be in the void or outside the void for the flashbacks, and the UI is easy to read, so this case has more of a Game Boy style setup, and the stuff you can do with the UI, as well as also changing the color palette of the game as well, is also very cool. The stuff you can do with this game's UI really adds to this game's experience. Overall, when it comes to Voice Stranger, it is, for me, a one-of-a-kind game that I've never seen any other game do the stuff it does and everything. And also shows me why this game wasn't exactly ported to console, because I'm not sure if it can work on console, but just the way it weaves not only its secrets, but the way to get the secrets as well and stuff in it is just so crazy, and how the game does drop the breadcrumb clues. It's just up to the player to figure out what the clues are in order to uncover more secrets, while the backstory of the character you're playing as is told to you through the trees, so you will learn their motivations, their name, and what exactly is going on with their relation to this dungeon. The other routes will also add more to the story going on, but the hard mode route is still something that I'm like, why try to do this to me? And the fact that there are people who do that route just with the bare minimum as well, as a case of, why do you do this to yourself? And since the game is completely cryptic in how things also function, it does also mean there are many fans who do put together resources to help people who are struggling. Never feel shame that you may get stuck and need help from the fan base, and the compiles that they've done, they've made entire websites, wikis, guides, all over the place in order to help players, because it is a game that is also designed for everyone to essentially share the knowledge they have, which is why the biggest power of the game is knowledge. It's not your skill, it's not your reflexes, it's based on what you know is what will get you through this game. Just because I'm not exactly a fan of Sokoban style puzzle games does not in any way, shape, or form means this game is bad. It is not bad. It is a very well put together game, especially with what they're going for. It is something that I've never seen before in my life, and I kind of feel like I've been indoctrinated into a cult. But this game is just that special and unique. So System Erasure have made something really amazing, but I can also see why it would repel a lot of people, and why my sister wanted me to get into it, because I doubt she can find some other sap in order to get them to play this game and talk to her about it. I'll say about Voice Stranger, it's a one-of-a-kind experience, and even if I was bashing my head many times while playing it, it is still an amazing experience that is something that people should try out for themselves, because just hearing about it and stuff won't exactly tell you how the experience really functions and just how amazingly unique this kind of game actually is. Not just kind of game, what this game does with the Sokoban style puzzle format, and just how it wants you to rethink not just even the format of the puzzles, but also just subverts aspects of its own genre that it's in to do many very cool and unique things. Gonna say about Voice Stranger? Alrighty then, good day.